The South African National Defence Union is asking the Air Force to come up with a plan to address what is described as inhumane conditions at their headquarters in Pretoria. The City Press newspaper today reporting that one section is which consists, by the way, of 3 floors underground, has had no ventilation, with temperatures there sometimes going as high as 40 degrees Celsius. The Union Secretary General is Pikkie Grief, who joins us now to talk more about this. Pikkie, a very good evening to you. Welcome to News at Prime. So how did the situation escalate to this level? Why are things falling apart as they are right now?
Well, due to the continuous cuts in the Defence Force budget, obviously many things that were supposed to be maintained over the years up to a certain standard were not maintained, and people had to decide where they're going to spend what little money the Air Force does get allocated and on what they're going to spend it. And as we know, the entire Air Force, almost all our aeroplanes in the Air Force has been grounded. There is very little money in the Defence Force, and so the kind of thing like ventilation and air conditioning, one can imagine, is the last thing that will be maintained. And unfortunately now we sit with a situation where we have a building that's almost 40 years old, a system that is the same age, it's reached its end of lifespan, and it is just simply, it has to be replaced. It cannot be fixed.
This raises, does it not, serious building maintenance questions, because if the ventilation is not working, it makes you wonder what else is wrong with the building that you may perhaps not even be aware of, because the breakdown is not yet visible.
Yes, it indeed isn't. Well, it's only visible in the sense that, you know, the symptoms that the members are showing in terms of a shortage of oxygen and the fact that they are working on a 50-50 basis and so on to try and mitigate the circumstances. We don't know what else is wrong in that building. We don't know what other maintenance was skipped or perhaps not affordable, but it creates a very dangerous situation.
And how long has this been going on?
It's been going on, to the best of our knowledge, for well over the past 2 years. We've engaged with the Defence Force before. Last year we wrote to them about it through our attorneys. Promises were made that it was going to be fixed. Members were promised that it would be fixed by their command structure. But unfortunately, nothing transpired. And I think we've come to a point now where we simply cannot sit back and tolerate these kinds of circumstances anymore.
How helpful has what the SNDF has told the City Press it's been doing, for example, bringing in mobile air conditioning units, allowing some staff to use their discretion as far as working from home, where possible, moving others out of the affected area? Is that making a difference?
It's not making a difference, because in the end of the day, some personnel still have to be in that building. They have to tend to that building due to the duties that are executed from that building. And that includes, watching over the entire airspace of South Africa as well. It's being monitored from that building. So there's always going to have to be employees in that building, serving members in that building. So those mitigating things that they brought in, yes, it is helpful to a certain extent, but we are by no means convinced that that is the solution. By the way, I think your viewers should just take note that that building was designed in such a way that windows cannot be opened. So it's a completely locked down building, if I can call it that. And there's very specialized ventilation systems that circulates air from outside through the building and out again. And if that ventilation stops working, you can imagine what dangerous atmosphere is created inside that sealed building.
So you're not satisfied as a union with what government or the SNDF says it's doing to try and remedy the situation. What next for you? Are your hands tied?
Our hands are certainly not tied. We started the process by asking the Air Force Chief to show us whether his Occupational Health and Safety Committee in that building has met on this issue. What have they decided? If they've decided anything, have they implemented it? What is it that was implemented? Because according to us, whatever was implemented is probably not enough to cure the situation. And if we're not satisfied with the response that the Defence Force still has to give us, then certainly we will be approaching the Department of Labour, and we will be asking the Department of Labour to send an inspector to the building in order to determine whether that location is in fact fit in terms of occupational health and safety to be occupied. And if that inspector feels it is not, then that inspector has the right to lock the building and determine for the Defence Force that no one is allowed to work there until the problem is fixed.
This issue and the others that you've raised, especially in the last year or two, as far as infrastructure that's dilapidated, equipment that's simply not working or maintained, etc., it all makes it sound as though being a member of the SNDF currently is absolute hell.
Look, we have to take our hats off to our men and women in uniform in the SNDF. You know, they make do best with what little they have and what they can, and they still do a sterling job. They're very dedicated. It's very difficult circumstances in the Defence Force. And I don't by no means want to create the image that soldiers are walking around complaining about stuff, but they're concerned. And they're concerned as South Africans, and they're concerned as soldiers, and as a union for soldiers, we are really concerned about the well-being of our members and the well-being of the SNDF.
Pikkie Grief, good to speak to you. Thank you.